Learning Japanese! Seems everyone wants to do it nowadays. If only you could understand Japanese, you could come to Japan on holiday and talk to people, move to Japan, find a job and make friends, watch anime without subtitles, read manga in its native language, learn to cook in Japanese, show off at parties. The possibilities are limited only by your imagination and by how much you're prepared to learn. I learned Japanese entirely through self-study, and I believe that you can do it too. I passed the JLPC N2 after 2 years of study and soon after entered a Japanese company. Some people say, "Wow, you're so smart, you're a genius." But I don't think so. I just picked the right study tools and used them in the right way. It's something that I think anyone can do. So I'm going to showcase my recommended study methods for beginners so that you too can become Nihongo Jozu. Let's go! The first step is learning Hiragana and katakana, which are the phonetic syllabaries that are used to write Japanese pronunciation. It's very easy, you can get it done in a couple of hours if you associate memorable images with each character. I recommend the Tofugu guide that will talk you through this, but get that done quickly because it will be the foundation for the rest of our Japanese study. To actually learn the language, it's helpful to break our study down into 3 key areas: grammar, kanji, and vocabulary. There is such a wealth of Japanese learning resources out there today that it can be hard to decide which ones to use. But if you pick just 3 good resources, one to focus on each of these 3 areas, you can progress efficiently without getting bogged down trying to balance your time between too many different study tools. Streamlining your study process like this is the key to efficiency and ultimately success. First, grammar. It may seem old-fashioned, but the best way to learn grammar is still with a textbook. There are plenty of apps and websites that have sprung up in the past few years that try to fill every study niche imaginable, but none of them offer the complete instructional package with exercises and all that you'll find in a textbook. The ever-popular beginner's choice is the Genki textbook series, now in its 3rd edition. This is what I used when I started out, and its good reputation is well deserved thanks to its clear grammar explanations and wealth of exercises that help you put into practice what you've learned. It has cute illustrations that make it friendly and approachable, but if it's too cuddly-wuddly for you, I'd like to introduce you to the Nakama series. Again, a beginner's textbook, but this one cuts out a lot of the fluffiness and treats you more like an adult. It introduces some important concepts early on, such as pitch accent, that I don't think that any other textbooks teach. If I was starting today, I would choose Nakama. There's also the Japanese from Zero series, which is comparatively very gentle and comes with an accompanying YouTube series, and the Human Japanese app, which is essentially a digital textbook that comes highly praised for its very human grammar explanations. Any of these resources will teach you Japanese as long as you work through them to the end. You can make this easy for yourself by building a study plan, even a rough one. For example, when I was doing Genki, I aimed to clear 1 chapter a week. On a day when I had some free time, usually Saturday, I'd open the textbook and read through a grammar lesson. Then I'd open the workbook to start the practice exercises and slowly work through those over the course of the week in order to read through the next grammar lesson the next Saturday. That was a good pace for me. It kept me progressing and feeling motivated, and I'd covered both Genki textbooks or all of elementary Japanese in 6 months. It can be tempting to say, I'm going to learn this all at once and try to blast through big chunks of the textbook in one go. But there is only so much information your brain can absorb at once. The important thing is finding a way to steadily add to your knowledge over time, so that you don't get overwhelmed all at once and quit, which is the last thing we want to happen. The one drawback that all these textbooks have is they try to teach you kanji, the more complicated Chinese characters, by getting you to write each one out 20 times and hoping that somehow all the information will stick in your brain. It won't. This is how most classes teach kanji. It's no fun, it doesn't work, and it's the reason so many people quit Japanese. So just ignore the kanji part of your textbook. Seriously, just skip it, because we're going to use a much better approach. Kanji. Kanji are the logographic characters borrowed from Chinese and used to write Japanese. There are tens of thousands of them, but every functioning adult in Japan is expected to know about 2,200, called the Joyo kanji or everyday use kanji. This is your goal. You need kanji if you're going to learn Japanese. Even if you don't think you're going to do much reading or writing, not only are all the vocabulary words you're going to learn written in kanji, but the pronunciation of many words is decided by what kanji they use. Taking the time to learn kanji at the start of your studies will make the rest of your study time so much easier, so don't be tempted to cut corners now. Learn kanji! It can seem like a lot, but fortunately learning kanji isn't as hard as many classes and textbooks will have you believe, as long as you avoid repeated writing, rote memorization, brute force methods, and instead use mnemonics. Mnemonics are the magic bullet that make the kanji learning process so much smoother. Instead of looking at a kanji as a tangle of squiggles and trying to remember it as is, you look at the parts that make the kanji up, assign memorable names or images to those parts, and use those to make a short story, sentence, or image in your mind that reminds you of the kanji's meaning. Your brain loves to associate information with imaginative imagery, making learning each kanji a natural and smooth process. Remembering the kanji one is the original mnemonics method that set the standard for all that came after. The author introduces the concept of mnemonics, names the kanji and all their parts for you, and provides mnemonics for about the first 500 kanjis to get you started before you go on to make your own. The name of the game here is learning just the appearance of every kanji and its associated keyword. So you may think, what's the point? You can learn all the kanji with this book, but you still won't be able to read or actually use any of them. Remembering the kanji forgoes trying to learn all the information about all the kanji all at once, and instead gets you to build a mental dictionary of kanji in your brain. When you finish the course and go on to the next step, which is learning vocabulary, you'll find that because you already recognize all the kanji and know what they all mean, associating them with their associated readings and vocabulary words is just natural. For example, it's much easier to remember that the word for reservation, like at a hotel or something, is written beforehand, promise, than it is to remember by just looking at it and trying to burn those characters into your brain. Don't do that, you'll hurt yourself. Remembering the kanji one can be completed in about 3 to 4 months if you're diligent about learning 20 new kanji every day, which is totally doable thanks to the stripped down nature of the course. The companion site Kanji Koohii exists, which allows you to track and save your mnemonics, as well as borrow other people's, which will make you even faster. The best part is that when you completed it, you never need to study kanji again. The rest of your study will just be grammar and vocabulary. Wanikani is the more recently developed successor to Remembering the Kanji. It's an online subscription service that also teaches kanji with mnemonics, but also teaches vocabulary and readings as well. It's an effective course that will get you where you need to go. So I recommend either Wanikani or Remembering the Kanji. Which one you choose depends on whether you're okay paying a one-off price for a book, or if you're happy paying for a subscription service for a more complete package. Kodansha Kanji Learners course gets an honorable mention for being similar to Remembering the Kanji, but having more information about each character. Multiple meanings, readings, vocabulary, you learn this alongside every character. This might seem good at first because you're getting more practical information sooner, but all that extra information is stuff that you're going to learn later anyway, and my opinion is that it's just added bloat that's going to keep you in the kanji learning stage for longer than you need to be. Finally, the website Kanji Damage is the only free mnemonics resource that I know of. The caveat is that it tries to be memorable by using a lot of dirty humor, and it has more than a few mistakes, but it's free, you get what you pay for. Whichever of these resources you choose, you'll learn the everyday use kanji in a matter of months, or at most just over a year, which is an order of magnitude faster than most classes teach. Most Japanese classes teach using handwriting and rote memorization because that's how Japanese kids learn. But Japanese kids take nearly a decade to learn those kanji, and they already know how to speak Japanese to begin with. It just doesn't make sense to use rote memorization when you're learning Japanese as a second language. Be smart, use mnemonics. Vocabulary. With that foundational kanji knowledge under our belt, it's time to learn some actual words. The key to learning lots of words fast is a spaced repetition system, or SRS. SRS programs take advantage of a weird feature of your memory, where you're more likely to remember something for longer if you recall it just when you're about to forget it. They do this by getting you to revise the information that you want to learn at increasingly longer intervals. So for example, you'll be shown a vocabulary word, you'll try to remember it, and then a few minutes later you'll see it again. Then 10 minutes later you'll see it again. Then the next day, then in 3 days, a week, a month, a year, and by then it will well and truly be in your long-term memory. There is no more efficient way to commit a huge volume of information, such as the vocabulary of an entire language, to your memory than SRS. The king of SRS programs is Anki, which does exactly what I've just described in the most customizable way. You can download a deck of words that you want to learn, or make a deck yourself, and if you're a good student who reviews it every day, those words will stay in your memory, no questions asked. The important thing is that you make a habit out of daily reviews, so that you keep it up and don't stop until you've memorized everything that you want to. Wanikani also teaches vocabulary through SRS, and it's good to review your kanji mnemonics with SRS too. When you've reached a more intermediate level, you can start having fun branching out from traditional study and using real-world Japanese as study material. Yes, that means you can learn Japanese by watching anime, by reading manga, by watching Japanese TV shows with Japanese subtitles, listen to Japanese music, or go out and talk to people in Japanese in the real world. You can call all these things study as long as you're actively taking notes about all the stuff you don't know and make an effort to memorize those things later through SRS. It's still worth keeping up textbook study at this level. Tobira is a great intermediate textbook. but at this point you can personalize your study a bit more. Finally, a word on motivation. Set a goal before you start. Make it really specific. I want to be fluent is the worst possible goal because it's basically meaningless. Fluency means different things to different people, and it's essentially unobtainable. Not a useful word, forget it. Good goals are concrete and achievable. Goals such as, I want to be able to discuss in Japanese. I want to watch the anime without subtitles. I want to talk to about. I want to understand the band lyrics. You fill in the blanks yourself. Putting your goal into clear words like this will make it easier to contextualize your learning and personalize your study to help you achieve what you want to achieve. And when you get there, it's gonna feel great. My life has never been the same since I've been able to understand the lyrics to Keri Pami Pamu's Pom Pom Pom. At some point, you'll find yourself complaining about lack of motivation. Motivation is fickle. It comes and goes with the wind. When it wanes, as it eventually will, motivation will need to be replaced by discipline. And when you've been disciplined about your study for long enough, it will become habit. When learning becomes part of your life, you won't need to think about why anymore. You'll just do it. And that's what will carry you far into the future, keeping you learning for years to come. Okay, that's everything. Please like and subscribe because I'm going to make many more Japanese learning tip videos in the future that I think will be of use to you. I believe in you. Ganbatte! Eat your greens and don't skip your Anki reviews. じゃあね, bye!